Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, Hayemi, Bava Basra, DAF Yud Daled. We are holding on DAF Yud Gimel Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom of the Amud. Tanu Rabbanon, Haroitze L'Dabek. If one wants to join together, to combine Torah, the scrolls of Torah, Nevi'im, Uksuvim, as one unit Ke'echad, Medabek, he can do so. He can have them combined as one unit, V'oiseh B'roishai. But he must make sure that he leaves some blank parchment at the beginning before, Bereshis, with enough material to wrap around that, the pole. K'dei logol, to wrap around Amud, the pole. U'b'soifai, as well as leaving some empty parchment at the end of this whole scroll. K'dei logol hekef, enough, sufficient to cover the rolled up, a Sefer Torah. So basically, Rashi learns that we're speaking where they used to only have one pole at the beginning, and you see the whole point of having two is to make it easier to scroll back and forth, right? To mish. So that's specific for a Sefer Torah where he's reading the Sefer Torah, Kriyas Torah every week, right? But here it was sort of just one big scroll with one pole. So you need enough at the end to wrap around and cover the whole rolled up scroll. U'masayim elamata, u'maschil melamalo. And let's say he completed one of the Sefarim of Nevi'im at the bottom of a column. He need not leave any spaces. Like between the Chumashim, you need at least 4 empty lines. Here, you don't need to. You don't need to because you're going from one column to the other. And we'll see in a minute why it's actually important not to have any space. And the Brisa continues. Now, if he comes, he wishes to separate the Sifra Nevi'im or whatever, so he can do that. Right? So he can slice it and separate it into 2. Asks the Gemara, Maika Amar, why does the Brisa have to give us that allowance? Rashi says, all agree it's better to have it separate. So what's the why are we pointing this out? Hachika Amar, no, the Brisa means to give a reason for the previous point. Why is it that when it comes to the Nevi'im, if you finish the Sefer on bottom, the next Sefer begins all the way on top without any gap? Because if he comes and decides to separate, he will do so. So it's not befitting to have empty spaces, because then, if he ends up dividing it into 2, so it's going to look awkward. You can have empty space if you leave space on top, so you can have empty space and the writing will only begin down the column, which is not, it's not the way it should be. It's going to be Gnai, Rashi says. It's going to look unusual and peculiar than the other Sfarim. Okay, now comes a kash. So in the previous brisa we learned that the empty cloth at the beginning needs to be enough to wrap around the pole. At the end, you need a greater space to wrap around the entire sefer. But the brisa here seems to say it's all the same. Tchila sefer v'is sefer. The space at the beginning and the end is kedei logol, enough to wrap around. Now, to wrap around what? Kedei logol. Mai. Kedei logol mai. So what are we wrapping around? Kedei logol hamud. The pole? Kasha hekif. And the question is, because in the previous brisa we learned that at the end, you need much more. Enough to wrap around the entire volume. Kedei logol hekif. If the brisa, when saying kedei logol, means to wrap the whole volume, kasha amud. So you're leaving that space at the end and the beginning. Well, that contradicts the previous brisa that in the beginning you only leave sufficient amount to wrap around the pole, which is a smaller amount. Omar Nachman Bar Yitzchak, you're right, let's Dadin Ktani. It has double meaning. The Brisa says, K'dei Logel, well, it depends. The space in the beginning is to wrap the pole, the space at the end is to wrap the entire scroll. Rav Ashi Omar, no, Ketanya Hi B'Sefer Torah. When the Brisa says, you leave at the beginning and the end, K'dei Logel, means K'dei Logel eitz, K'dei Logel amud, to wrap the stick. Because it's speaking about a Sefer Torah, which is configured differently. There you have two poles, right? Typically a scroll is rolled from beginning to end, right, as one circle. Whereas a Sefer Torah is rolled to the middle, like we have today. With a pole on either side. The Parshim explained because it's meant for Kriyas HaTorah on a regular basis, which makes it much more convenient, right? Rather than having to scroll all the way to the end and all the way to the beginning, back and forth all the time. Amar Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Tzadok, in fact, Kach Hayu Koisvei Sfarim Shebirushalayim. Oisin L'Sefraim, the Seifrim in Yerushalayim, they would configure the Sefer Torah this way, having two amudim on both sides, rolling it towards the middle. Tana Rabbanan. What about the size of a Sefer Torah? How tall is it going to be? Ein oisin Sefer Torah, loy arka yoser al kefai. The length, the height should not be greater than the circumference of the Sefer Torah. And likewise, circumference should not be greater than the length. Okay, so they should both match. Shalosh Rabbi Es Rebbe. So they asked Rebbe, Rabbi Danos, is Shir Sefer Torah B'Kama? Okay, so we know that the both dimensions are supposed to match. So how tall is a Sefer Torah meant to be in a way that would match its thickness? Amar Lahem, he told him like this: the formula is bigvil. If you're using the thicker type of parchment, shisha, make it 6 tefach high, which will correspond to its thickness. Beklaf, if it's just klaf, which is a thinner type of parchment, which has been peeled, bekama. How much is that? Any day, I'm not sure. It's interesting, the Maharsha says that the number 6 corresponds to the size of the luchos, which we're going to see soon. 6 by 6, so they say for Torah. Ideally should have the size of the same dimension of the luchos, 6 by 6. Okay, Rav Huna konsav shivin sifrei deiraisa. Rav Huna apparently was a sefer. He sat down to write 70. He made 70 attempts at writing sifrei Torah in a way that they should match. The dimensions should match up perfectly. V'lo yisramali. It didn't work out. It was always a bit off. Elochad, except for one. One matched up perfectly. Rav Acha bar Yaakov kosav chada mashcha de'igli. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, on the other hand, he tried one Sefer Torah on a calf's hide, Vishramali, and it worked perfectly. This was like an astounding feat. Yobi be'Rabbanan, now the Rabbanan placed their eyes on him. It was like a wonderment, something unusual, and this affected him. It created some sort of ayin hara effect, and he passed away as a result. It was something so bizarre. Amar le Rabbanan le Rav Hamnuna. Rabbanan told Rav Hamnuna, Kosa Rabbi Ami dalet mei Sefer Torah. It so happens that Rabbi Ami successfully scribed 400 Sefer Torah, which is an unbelievable feat. Amar Lucy told him, Dilma, it's impossible. 400 in one's lifetime is too much. Dilma, maybe what you meant to say is Torah tziva lanu Moshe kosav. Just that pasuk. He wrote 400 times. You know, that's the pasuk you teach your son first, right? The Gemara Sukkah speaks about that. So that's called Torah. Torah tziva lanu. This pasuk is called Torah. Maybe this is the essence of Torah, and that's what he wrote 400 times. Amar le Rav Zera. Another story. Rabbi tells Rav Zera, not to Rabbi Yanai arba mea karmi, that Rabbi Yanai planted 400 vineyards in Eretz Yisrael, and this is a tremendous accomplishment. Amar Leis, he says, no, that's impossible. Dilma shtayim keneged shtayim b'achas eitzei zanav. Okay, maybe he planted 400 mini vineyards, each one with a total of just 5 vines. 2 opposite, 2 with one sort of sticking out in the middle like a tail, which is the minimum configuration for a vineyard, as discussed in Maseches Kalayim. So because of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, he wanted to contribute to the inhabiting of Eretz Yisrael. That's why he did that, but it wasn't really 400 full vineyards. Okay, now we go back to the configuration of the Sefer Torah. Right, so we spoke about Rebbe giving us a dimension of 6 by 6. Meisve, here comes a kasha on Rebbe from a brayso. How could you say a Sefer Torah is meant to be so big? Aron Shasam Moshe, the Aron Hakodesh that Moshe Rabbeinu built in the midbar, configured in the midbar for the Mishkan, right? For the Luchos. How big was it? Amasayim v'chetzi arkai, right? The Torah says it was 2.5 amma long, v'ama v'chetzi rachbai, 1.5 amas wide, v'ama v'chetzi kamasi, 1.5 high. Ba'ama, what type of amma do we use? How many tfachim in this amma? Bas shisha tfachim. The amma here has 6 tfachim per amma. So basically, it's going to be 15 tfachim long and 9 tfachim wide and 9 tfachim high. Okay, so 15 by 9 by 9. Now, what was placed inside that aron? V'aluchos, right? The 2 tablets. Arkan shisha, rachban shisha, v'aven shleisha. It was 6 by 6. V'avyon, and it was 3 tefach thick. By the way, the Gemara speaks about it being 6 by 6, which sounds like it was a perfect square, rather than having a rounded top like you find in some pictures. So in any case, it was 6 by 6. Munachos, so how was it placed? Meaning it was placed, we know it was placed in the aron, lengthwise or widthwise. So again, the aron was 15 by 9, and the luchos were 6 by 6. Munachos keneged arka shel aron. So they were placed alongside the length of the aron, side by side. All right, so it's 6 plus 6, a total of 12, out of 15 of the aron. Kama luchos oichleis ba'aron. How much space did the luchos consume in the aron? A total of 12, right? Shneimos hatvachim. Right, so they're lying head to head. 6 and 6 is 12. That leaves us with another 3 out of the 15. Okay, same hand tefach l'chetzel l'ketzel zeh. So 1 tefach is going to be applied to the thickness of the actual walls of the aron. Chetzel l'ketzel zeh, half a tefach for this wall. V'chetzel l'ketzel zeh, the other half for the other side, the other wall. So now you're left with how much space? Into which you place the Sefer Torah. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu wrote a Sefer Torah, placed it in the aron. This is where it went. Shaban Sefer Torah munach. Shnema ein ba'aron rak. Shnei luchos avonim. Asher haniach sham Moshe. In the aron you only find the 2 luchos. Now, there are 2 miutim in this pasuk. It says ein ba'aron rak. There is nothing but my ein ba'aron rak. So that takes us to miut achar miut. There's a miut, an exclusionary term, followed by another exclusionary term, and that actually cancels out ve'ein miut achar miut el rabbis. The Mepharshim explain how this works, but bottom line, we're actually covering something else. We're including something. What are we including? El rabbi Sefer Torah shemunach ba'aron. So this tells us that aside from the luchos, the Sefer Torah is also placed in the aron. So in terms of the length, we filled it all up. It was 15. 1 tefach went off for the walls, left with 14. You have 1 luach, another luach, 6 and 6 is 12. You're left with 2 tefachim, into which you place the Sefer Torah, which was actually lying, the length of that Sefer Torah, the height, was to the width of the aron. Right? Now, Pirnas the aron la'arka. So now you've covered the entire length of the aron. Say uparnis aron l'rachbai. Now let's look at the width of the aron. Okay, so we have the starting point of 9. Kama luchos oichleis ba'aron. How much do the luchos take up? 6, right? Shisha tvachim. You're left with how much? 3. Nishtarij sham shleisha tvachim. You need some for the wall material. Same man tefach. Take off a tefach. Chetzi l'kaisel zeh, right? Chetzi l'kaisel zeh. Half a tefach for each wall. You're left with 2 tefachim. Empty space. Nishtar sham shnei tefachim. And that was in order to access the Sefer Torah, to make it a little more roomy. Even though the Sefer Torah is lying along the width of the Aron, at the end of the length, but it was lying the other way. And here we have an empty strip going lengthwise along the Aron. How does that affect the Sefer Torah? It does, because it leaves a little more room for wiggle space, and everything gets a little more roomy. So that the Sefer Torah is not stuck in there. It can come in and out easily. So according to Rameir, bottom line, the space inside the Aron was as follows. You had a space of 14 by 8. Okay, so 14 by 8. The luchos were lying head to head. Luchos were 6 by 6, so we're lying head to head along the length of the lengthwise along the Aron. So it's 6 is 12. You left with 2 across, where you put the Sefer Torah, and there was an empty space lengthwise beside the luchos to give a little wiggle space for the Sefer Torah. Rabbi Yehuda, he says the starting point is a totally different number, because he goes ba'ama bas chamisha tefachim. He holds that each amma used in configuring the Aron consisted only of 5 tefachim. So the whole Aron was small to begin with. Haluchos arkan shisha, rachman shisha. And again, the luchos were 6 by 6, vavin shloisha, 3 tefach thick. Munachas ba'arka shel Aron, lying along the length of the Aron. Kama luchos oichos ba'aron, how much did they consume in the Aron? Now, 1 second, before we begin, what was the starting point? According to Rabbi Yehuda, well, the Aron was now 2.5 amma long, and an amma is 5 tefachim, so that's 12.5 long, and the width was 1.5 ammas wide, so it's 7.5. So you're starting off with a 12.5 by 7.5, right? Okay, now you put the luchos alongside the length of the Aron. Kama luchos oichos ba'aron, how much space do they take up? 12. You're left with how much? You're only left with a half a tefach, right? So that's just enough for the wall material. Etzba l'koisel, 1 finger width to accommodate the wall on this side. Ve'etzba l'koisel, and the wall on the other side was an etzba thick. So you're done. You totally filled up this part of the Aron. Pernas the Aron la'arka. Tseyu parnes Aron l'rachban. Let's take a look at the width of the Aron. Also, not much space left, because the starting point was 7.5 tefachim. Kama luchos oigdois ba'aron. How much did the luchos take up? 6 tefachim. It's 6. You're left with how much? 1.5 tefachim. Nishtar sham tefach mechza. Tzei men chatzi tefach. Deduct a half a tefach. That's for the thickness of the actual wall. Etzba mechza l'koisel zeh. Ve'etzba mechza l'koisel zeh. 1.5 etzbois per wall. The Bach actually deletes the word umechza to match to the previous description of the wall there with the etzba. So bottom line, etzba l'koisel zeh, you're left with some space, nishtar sham tefach, just 1 tefach, into which they place the poles, special poles that they made, shaboy amuden, these poles, Rashi says silver poles, look like the Sefer Torah handles, and that symbolizes the strength of Klal Yisrael and how resilient we are. Shanamar apirion osalei mel shloimim asi alvanin amuda, right? Asa chesef revidas zav mekabe agaman. So these are the amudim symbolizing our resilience, our eternity. Okay, va'arga sheshigro by plishtim doiran le'lokei Yisrael. And so far we haven't placed the Sefer Torah in the Aron. There's no room. Let's proceed. We have the this treasure chest which was sent by the Plishtim when they returned the Aron at the time of the HaMelech. So they sent it as a gift, and that was placed beside the Aron. Where do you place this treasure? So that was placed next to the Aron. And that provided a support base for the Sefer Torah outside the Aron. Sefer Torah munach shnema lokecha sefer Torah. So actually, Rabbi Yehuda brings it right from the pasuk that the Sefer Torah was situated outside the Aron. V'samta moisai, where? Mitzad aron b'sashem, beside the aron, mitzad u'munach, on the side. V'lei b'sachan, on the side. Umani mekayim ein ba'arein rak. So let's go back to Reb Meir's pasuk. Ein ba'arein rak, that double mute, which indicated there was something else inside the aron as well. Oh, the Rabbi Shivrei Luchai Shemunachim Ba'aron, says Rabbi Yehuda. That's to indicate that the broken luchais, the first luchas that were broken, they went back into, they were placed in the aron. Rashi says tachas haluchais, underneath the whole luchais. Okay, so bottom line, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Sefer Torah was placed outside the aron. According to Rabbi Meir, inside the aron, in that 2 tefach gap. Question: Sefer Torah is 2 tefach? It's 6 tefach. The standard Sefer Torah is meant to be 6 tefach. If a Sefer Torah is meant to be 6 tefachim thick, right? Circumference is 6 tefachim. Well, michti. Let's take a look at this mathematically. If you have a circle whose circumference is 3 tefachim, right? How much is its diameter? This is pi, right? It's about a tefach in width. So, assuming the Sefer Torah would be 6 tefach in circumference, so it would be at least 3 tefach in its actual width. Right? It would be at least 2 tefach in its width. But, hold it. But here it's a Sefer Torah. It's not a single roll, it's a double roll. That certainly adds to its thickness. Nafesh lemitrei. Tifcha. Ravcha de beni beni. So, the total size, including all the gaps and the spaces and all the extra, is going to be more than 2 tefachim. Nafesh lemitrei tifcha, because of the ravcha de beni beni, because the extra spaces. Rashi says between the 2, rolls, the 2 columns, you can have space. Others learn that the fact that it's split into 2, that makes it just makes it more room, it takes up more space, right? When you have a single circle, if it's 6 around, it's 2 across. But when it's 2 separate circles, it's certainly going to add to its density. So bottom line is, how's it going to fit into that 2 tefach space? Betray pushchi into a place of merely 2 tefachim in size. How's it going to sit there? Amar of Achabar Yaakov, no, Sefer Azara. This Sefer Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote, we call it Sefer Azara because it was placed in the Azara, in the Beis HaMikdash, and it was used only once in very, very seldomly. The Melech and Hakel would read it, in Kippur, very, very seldomly used. So this Sefer Torah actually was a single unit. It wasn't a double pole. I remember we learned before the whole purpose is to make it convenient but here it wasn't very used Sefer Torah, and therefore the Tchilasa Nigla, it would roll all the way to the beginning, meaning it was a single roll, so it was a single circle, and it was merely 2 tefachim in size, and it fit in. Asks the Gemara, what do you mean? If it's exactly 2 tefach, you're going to find it hard squeezing it into a parking space of exactly 2 tefach. I mean, Vakati, it's still tray, something which is 2, to fit it into a 2 tefach spot. How's it going to fit in there? Amar Ashi, the Kurach be Purta B'Karchelel. You made a little extra room because you would unroll a little bit and, sort of roll it over outside the main roll. So that was sort of sticking out, and by doing so, you deducted its, you reduced its thickness just that much to allow it some wiggle space in and out. Okay, for Rabbi Yehuda, now comes a kasha. Rabbi Yehuda learned Sefer Torah was outside, placed on that chest, but that chest only arrived way later in our history. Mekame delesi argas. Before that argas arrived, Sefer Torah hechi hava Yosef. Where was the Sefer Torah placed? Answer: Da Bava Basra. They made like a little shelf out of the aron, Yosef Eliyah Sefer Torah, on which the Sefer Torah was placed. And Rabbi Yehuda is sourced in the pasuk. It says mitzad, on the side, not inside. Asks the Gemara. So what does Rabbi Meir do with Rabbi Yehuda's pasuk? For Rabbi Meir, mitzad aron mayodi. What do you do with the pasuk, which indicates that's on the side, not inside? Says the Gemara. The point of the pasuk there is the masach lemitzad, to teach you that although the Sefer Torah was placed inside the aron, but it was meant to be placed beside the luchos, as opposed to between the luchos. But certainly it's inside the Aron on the side of the luchos. Asks the Gemara, Rabbi Meir, Amudim heicha havukaimi. Now Rabbi Yehuda filled the extra space with the poles, right? According to Rabbi Meir, where did those poles go? Outside the Aron. Asks the Gemara, Rabbi Meir. One more question. Rabbi Meir, Shivrei luchos dumunachan ba'aron minale. We had the pasuk, right? Ein ba'aron rak. According to Rabbi Meir, it taught us to place the Sefer Torah in the Aron. According to Rabbi Yehuda, to place the Shivrei luchos in the Aron. How does Rabbi Meir know about the Shivrei luchos? Nafkele mit Rav Huna. He learns it from a different pasuk. The Amar Rav Huna, Ma'idach Siv. What does the pasuk mean? Asher nikra sham. Asher nikra shem. Shem Hashem tzvakos yoshev krubim alav. So we have a pasuk in Shmuel relating to the Aron, and the word shem is mentioned twice to cover both luchos. Malamed sheluchos v'shivrei luchos is coming to teach us that the second set of luchos and the first set, the broken ones, are both placed munachem ba'aron v'idach. What does Rabbi Yehuda do with this pasuk? Hahu mibayle, look at Rabbi Yechanan. It's coming for something else. The Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Malamed, this teaches us that the actual name of Hashem, Shehashem, the main, primary name, the Shem HaMeforash, plus all the other variations of Hashem's name, V'chol Kinuyot, all of them were placed in the Aron Munochan Ba'aron. V'idach nami mibayle lachi. Now, doesn't Rameir need the pasuk for this as well? To teach us about the Shemus? Einachanam, you're right. It's needed for that. So back to the question, Ella, Shivrei Luchos, Dimunachan Ba'aron, Minales, how does he know about placing the Shivrei Luchos in the Aron? We have another pasuk for that. Nafkalei mit the Tanu Rabbi Yosef, Asher Shebarta V'Samta. So pasuk. In Dvarim, Moshe Rabbeinu is describing his writing of the second Luchos. I wrote it exactly like the first ones, right? Asher Shebarta V'Samtam Ba'aron. Right? So the fact that it says Shibarta, never samtam, right? That you broke, v'samtam, you placed them, teaches us that you place both of them in the Aron. Malamed, Sha'luchos, v'shivrei luchos, munachan ba'aron, that both sets are placed in the Aron. V'idach, what does Rabbi Yehuda do with the fact that the pasuk puts the Shibarta never samtam? What does that teach us? Look at the Rish Lakish. It's coming for another halacha. Damar Rish Lakish, Asher Shibarta. The reason why the pasuk makes reference to Moshe Rabbeinu breaking them is to tell us that Hashem consented. Amar le'akadosh baruch Hu, Hashem was telling Moshe Rabbeinu, although it was your decision, but I fully accept it and I thank you for it. Amar le'akadosh baruch Hu, Moshe yasher kechacha, your strength should be increased. Right? Yasher kechacha, your kech should be strengthened. Basically, I'm supporting what you did. Sheshibarta, on account of you breaking the luchos. Turn it up on it. Okay, now we have a brisa with the exact sequence of how the Nevi'im and Ksuvim were configured. Turn it up on it. Sidron shel Nevi'im. So what is the order of the Nevi'im? Yeshua, V'Shaiftim, Shmuel, Umalachim, Yirmiyah, Yechezkel, Yeshaya, Ushneim Asa, which is a compilation of small Svarim. You have Chagi, you have Zachariah, Malachi, Hoshea, right? In Trei Asar. Asks the Gemara, why is Hoshea situated inside Trei Asar? Michti, Hoshea Kadem. Hoshea really came before Yeshaya. The Chsiv Tchilas Diber Hashem Hoshea. So Hoshea was spoken to by Hashem first, before the other Nevi'im in his generation. Asks Gemara, what do you mean? You mean Hoshea was the first Navi? From Moshe Rabbeinu until Hoshea, many years, many Nevi'im existed. What do you mean he was the first one? He explained like this. When we say first, it means first in his circle. He was the first of the 4 Nevi'im who prophesied during his era. Who were the 4 Nevi'im? Ve'eluhein, Hoshea, was the first of the rest. Yeshaya, Amos, Umicha. So bottom line, Hoshea was before Yeshaya. So why was he relegated to Shnei Maser way after Yeshaya? Yeshaya go first. Answers the Gemara, there's a reason for a practical reason. Since we placed his Nevuah together with Chagi, Zechariah, Malachi, we'll see in a minute why. So we put it in Treyasa to keep it safe and sound, because it was very small, right? And we know that those Nevi'im lived all the way at the end of the Nevuah era. The Chagi and Zechariah, Malachi, safe Nevi'im havu. They were actually the last Nevi'im. So therefore, Hoshea was placed together with them. Unrelated to the historical sequence of events, just for practical reasons, right? What do you mean? So why are you combining his sefer with those? Just write it separately and have it go first. I did the Zuta Mirchas, since it's a very small sefer, it's going to get lost, so to keep it safe, we sort of bound it together, we put it together with the other Nevi'im, together with the Chagi Zechariah, and since they were at the end of the prophecy era, so he goes along with them as well. Says the Gemara, Michti, let's take a close look at the other Sfarim and their sequence. Yeshaya Kadam Yirmiyah. Yeshaya lived before Yirmiyah and Yecheskel. Why doesn't he go first? L'kadmin l'Yeshaya V'Reisha. And says the Gemara, we look at content. Kiva the Malachim Sefer the Churbana. Since in Malachim it relates to the end of the Churban era, V'Yirmiyah Kuli Churbana, and Yirmiyah is entirely describing the destruction of the Mikdash. Yecheskel and Sefer Yecheskel is half and half. Reisha Churbana v'Sefer Nechemta. It starts with a reference to the destruction, but then it shifts over to Nechama, to Nechama of the Geula. V'Yeshaya Kula Nechemta, and Yeshaya is full of consolations and nechama, so we want to keep it sort of on topic. Samchin and churban al churbana. So we place churban near churban, v'nechemta nechemta, and nechama to nechama. Therefore, we go from Malachim, which concludes with churban, and takes us into Yirmiyah on the same topic, into Yecheskel on the same topic. Then we switch over to redemption, to nechama, over to Yeshaya, which is completely nechama. So this is the order of the Nevi'im. What about Sidron Shal Ksuvim? What about the Ksuvim? It goes like this. Rus, then comes V'Sefer Tehillim, V'Iyav, B'Mishle, Koheles, She'er Shirim, V'Kinus, that's Eicha, right? Daniel, Umegillas Esther, Ezra, and V'Divrei Hayamim. Asks the Gemara, L'Madamar Iyav, V'Imay Moshe Haya. We're going to see soon a whole sugya about Iyav, and who exactly he was. Now, if in fact he lived in the time of Moshe, shouldn't he be the first before the other ones? Likad Miliya Bereisha. Answers the Gemara, again we focus on content. Aschuli, since Iyav's Sefer discusses hardships and tragedies, we don't want to start with that. Aschuli, Bib Paranusa, to begin with negativity, Lem Aschuli, we don't want to start with that, and therefore we leave it for later. Asks the Gemara, okay, so what's the first Sefer of Ksuvim? Rus. Well, that also was a very difficult and challenging life story. Rus Nami Puranosi, right? Her husband passed away, kids passed, right? So why does that go first? Answers the Gemara. Puranas Isle Achris. Oh, because ultimately that was a Puranas which turned into something very, very positive, very hopeful, right? When she married Boaz, right? And that was the catalyst for David HaMelech and Mashiach, right? Damar B'yechan, Lama Nikra Shma Rus. Why was she called Rus? On account of the bright future which emanated from that. Sheyatsa Mimenu David, right? Because of David that came from her, she Rivu L'Kadosh Baruch Hu. The Shirais, the Sishpachais, Rivu is the lashon of kaiser revaya, satiated, filled, overfilled, right? So he had a full life of applying shirois v'shpachos to Hashem. So sometimes when it's dark, you have to just look ahead, and her essence was defined by the unbelievably bright future that she brought about. Okay, so we started with the halachas of configuring the klaf of the Sefer Torah, how much space we leave at the beginning, at the end. We discussed the ideal size of a Sefer Torah. We discussed the Aron Habris and the Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash. There are two shitos, luchos, shivay luchos, Sefer Torah, the Amudim, where all these things were placed. And we concluded with the Seder and Nevi'im and Seder Ksuvim to be continued by Hashem tomorrow. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.